The Morrigan is a goddess shrouded in mystery, and yet at the same time she is the most popular of the Irish Celtic gods and the most well-known. Her etymology translates to the Phantom Queen, and her aspects and her behaviors and mannerisms most certainly placate to this etymology in many ways. But who is the Morrigan? The Morrigan is not only her own aspect, but she is also a triple goddess aspect. Not in the same sense as Hecate, who is described as having one goddess with three forms, the maiden, mother, and crone, something that is popular with most pagan witches. The Morrigan, on the other hand, is actually three sisters, three different goddesses that are formed into one goddess, and these three goddesses are most commonly known as the Daughters of Enmar. While many different stories and literature works have the Irish research community debating on who these three sisters are, two of them are most certainly confirmed, while the third, it depends on some of the sources in many ways. However, I will be using the three sisters that the Order of the Crows organization uses as the three aspects of the Morrigan in this video. And to me, they make the most sense, if I'm being perfectly honest, which is why I will be talking about them. These three goddesses I will spell out due to the fact that their pronunciation can be very different from the spelling, as I have studied a bit of Gaelic. To start off, the first sister is Baive, which is spelled as B-A-D-B but pronounced B-A-I-V-E. She is the goddess of battle, and her name directly translates to battle crow. She is the goddess that is most associated whenever the Morrigan is seen washing the blood off of the armor of a soon-to-be-slain warrior at a ford or river. She is also seen as the embodiment of death herself, and is also important when it comes to battle strategy and prophecy and bloodshed. Her cries are known to echo over the battlefield in order to give a determination of either victory or defeat. At the end of a battle, the battle crow will feed upon the slain along with her fellow ravens. The next aspect is the goddess Maha, which is spelled as M-A-C-H-A. Maha is recognized as the goddess of the land of Ireland itself and also of sovereignty over the land and its people. She is also a goddess that is very much held in reverence to the contract between the Irish people and the Tuatha De Danann. To this contract it is to respect the land of Ireland, for the humans of Ireland shall be living on the surface and ruling over it, while the Tuatha De Danann shall rule in the other world, which lies beneath the soil of Ireland. So to respect the land is of great importance, for if you do not, you are disrespecting not only the Tuatha De Danann, but the contract that binds the humans of Ireland with the Tuatha De Danann. Breaking the sacred contract would be held in great offense, most especially to Maha. She is also the living embodiment of the land itself, so to respect the land was to respect her, as well as the sovereignty that holds the king or the lords or queens of Ireland. The final aspect of the Morrigan is the goddess Navain, which is spelled as N-E-M-A-I-N. Navain is another war goddess that is associated with the Morrigan, but if you thought Bob's shrieks were terrifying and her prophecies were frightening, then you have not yet seen what Navain can do with her own shrieks. Navain is probably one of the most direct aspects to the idea of the Morrigan being the Phantom Queen, as well as her link to the spirit, the Banshee, whose shrieks are known to kill even the most hardened of men through terror. However, Navain's shrieks are far more powerful than just one singular man. She can walk into an enemy camp, and her shrieks will kill a huge majority of the enemies simply just in that single instance. The rest are meant to flee so that they can tell the tale. This aspect is what is the most terrifying of the Morrigan, and her sacredness is held in great reverence, mostly due to the fear that she causes. So now that we have all these aspects of the Morrigan under taken note, who is the Morrigan herself, and what are her own capabilities? The Morrigan is all of these aspects, but she also is so much more. The Morrigan, in the lore of the Irish Celtic folklore, is the main lover of the Dagda, his queen. The Dagda translating to be the good one, or the good god. The Morrigan translating to be the phantom queen are most clearly seen to be opposites. So why is it that they hold such love for one another, then? Their love is seen to be very passionate and very affectionate. It is through their love that they actually even celebrate their love as a way of signifying the coming of the harvest. This holiday would be known as Samhain, which takes place around the time of Thanksgiving. During this celebration, it would be seen that the passionate love between the Dagda and the Morrigan would bring the harvest and the fruition of the crops and of the earth, and so the worshippers would thank them for all of the benefits and boons that their love has given. The Dagda and the Morrigan would also have a moment where they even have a time where the Morrigan would wander off due to the fact that the other gods find her dismaying due to the gloom and that she would prophesy. The Dagda would pursue her, but the Morrigan would also indulge one final thing to the Dagda, and that is the prophecy of the end of the world, the end of times, where the Irish people would fall into cataclysmic mayhem, the Tuatha De Danann slain, and Ireland brought to nothing. This would be a prophecy that would bring terror to both the Morrigan and the Dagda, but was also seen as one of the firmer moments where their relationship has some passion and affection, which it is shown all the time between them, but this one there seems to be more of the Morrigan attempting to try and reconcile with the fact that she is seen as mostly a gloom goddess. The Morrigan is also a goddess of many different schools of magic, other than prophecy and battle, but also in nature and in healing. She is, in fact, a goddess of the land of Ireland and its protector, and a teacher of many magic practitioners, of divination, of nature, and of battle magic. There is one final thing to note of the Morrigan, however, and that is her role within the story Cuchulainn. Before we continue on with this, it is also well known that the Dagda and the Morrigan are known to have multiple lovers, and this does not necessarily affect the relationship that the both of them have for each other. They both have great passion for one another, but at the same time they don't necessarily stop or get jealous of one another when they have multiple lovers. The Morrigan plays a role of attempting to have Cuchulainn himself be one of her lovers. Cuchulainn, however, in this moment outright rejects her, which causes her to be furious with him. In this moment, she promises to have him killed, while Cuchulainn retorts by promising to injure her 3 times, once in the eye, once in the shoulder, and once in her leg. When the next battle comes, the Morrigan begins to shapeshift, as she is known to actually do. She starts by shapeshifting herself into an eel, in order to wrap herself around Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn responds by throwing a sling at her eye, thus rupturing it. The Morrigan then responds by shapeshifting herself into a raven, and attempting to claw out his eyes in return. Cuchulainn responds once again by throwing another sling and hitting her in the shoulder, breaking one of her wings. One final time, the Morrigan then shapeshifts into a she-wolf, to which Cuchulainn then responds by throwing a sling and breaking her leg. The Morrigan realizes what has happened and slumps away defeated by the great warrior Cuchulainn. She then realizes she cannot heal herself, and so she is left with no other choice but to come to Cuchulainn to heal her. She disguises herself as an old woman and begs to have Cuchulainn heal her from her injuries and her wounds. Cuchulainn responds by accepting this, and then blesses her eye, her shoulder, and her leg, each of them being healed by his blessings. But once the Morrigan leaves, Cuchulainn realizes what it is that he had done, and realizes that he healed the Morrigan. The Morrigan would play a couple of final roles within this tale by starting with having him eat dog meat, by offering it to him. Cuchulainn had refused eating dog meat and swore a sacred oath to never consume dog meat. But since it was being offered to him, he had no other choice but to accept it. And so, because he had broken his sacred oath, he was now spiritually weakened. The next role she would play would be in Cuchulainn's death, where one of Queen Maeve's warriors would be summoned so that he may be able to kill him after he had been spiritually weakened, as well as weakened by his battle with his brother. In this loyal warrior of Maeve's took 3 magical javelins, and he threw one of them at the charioteer of Cuchulainn, the second at Cuchulainn's horse, the final one aimed at Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn was gutted, and he realized he was about to die. So, he decided to take his intestines, wrap them around a stone and himself, so that he may face his enemies while still standing. Most of Maeve's warriors did not even realize that he had passed for quite some time until the Morrigan arrived, perched on Cuchulainn's shoulder in the form of a raven. Queen Maeve's warrior then decided to take his head, and in that moment Cuchulainn's body burst into pure light, with the Morrigan taking his soul, and the sword falling from Cuchulainn's hands, chopping off the arm of Queen Maeve's warrior. In this final moment, it is interpreted by me to see this as a sign of respect from the Morrigan. While she had taken most of his time to hate and despise him, in this final moment, she sees respect in him for all that he has achieved and all that he has done, and the fact that he did show her mercy in healing her wounds. While I'm not entirely certain as to her relationship with Cuchulainn now, I feel in this moment it is where she finds some sort of respect and some sort of way of saying, "You have done enough to him. Now you may leave him or you may suffer the consequences," such as was done to Queen Maeve's loyal warrior. The Morrigan is a rather complicated figure in many senses, as are many of the gods once you understand most of the lore that is found behind them, even things that you may not have known about them. The Morrigan most certainly is one that could be very terrifying in many aspects, and that is the more common association with the Morrigan. But little is ever seen about some of the more benevolent aspects of her, such as the aspects that we can see through Maha, as well as the ones that can be seen through herself. The Morrigan is a teacher and a mother goddess in and of her own right. She is still the Queen of Ireland, and in fact Ireland itself, its great protector. She is the protector of the kings and lords of Ireland, but also its people, and, of course, the one that binds the other world and the Irish people as the connector. And while her prophecies may mostly surround the idea of death, gloom, and despair, at the same time she is also one that respects the nature of Ireland, a protector of all life, and a healer. So it is important to keep these things in mind about the aspects of the Morrigan, because while it may be interesting and nice to see all of the terrifying and rather dark aspects of the Morrigan and take it with intrigue, it's also important to remember all of the beneficial and benevolent aspects as well, both in the fact that she is a war goddess, but also a protector goddess. So keep these in mind as you keep in mind your worship of the Morrigan should you choose to follow her path, for she is more than just a goddess of war and destruction, but a goddess of a protector of life and a teacher of magic. With that, I would like to leave you with all of this information and hope that you have a better understanding of the Morrigan, and if you choose to follow her. With this, I leave you with this, and I hope you have learned something from this video. Be sure to click that like button if you did, subscribe if you wish to see more videos like this, and until next time, so mote it be, and blessings be.